Welcome to the opening race of the first round of the 2018 GT4 European Series. 44 cars coming out to play. They'll be stretched around that final chicane. Fantastic variety at the front end of the grid. And 1 hour of racing up ahead of us. There is the pole starting Audi number 5. Nikolai Moller-Madsen will start that and hand over eventually to Milan Doncha. And as in the Blancpain Sprint Cup, the racing is an hour long. You can make a pit stop after any time between 25 and 35 minutes into this 1 hour race. But look at the array of cars. GT4, the growth formula in worldwide racing. Not so long ago, we had a handful of manufacturers, and now they're queuing up to be involved. It's been a massive success story. And for the very best drivers in this, there is the dream, the carrot, if you will, being dangled in front of them. If you're fast enough, you might just find a drive for yourself up one level in GT3 in the Blancpain Series, whether the Sprint or the Endurance Cup in the years ahead. And certainly quite a lot of drivers at the front end of the grid are really putting their hand up for it. Got the Audi on pole, second position, Pierre-Alexandre Jean in one of the CMR Ginettas. The Ginetta G55 model is certainly becoming very, very popular for teams that fancy a shot at the front end of the grid. Track conditions absolutely perfect, nearly 38 degrees track temperature. That's not bad for spring. Just think, about 3 or 4 days ago, the air temperature wasn't 26.5 degrees. Well, that's phenomenal. I can't believe it's that hot. More like 12 degrees, or even, in fact, probably about 8 degrees. And certainly it's been a wonderful, wonderful day. Now we can see the cars in all their beauty. They do just fit onto the start-finish straight. Of course, we've got a rolling start coming up, so everybody have to be on their toes. But now a good chance to see these cars, many fantastic new liveries for the season as it unfolds. On the second row of the grid, this is a very strong driver pairing. Number 55, HHC Motorsport, and that is Stuart Middleton, who's sharing that with Will Tregurtha. Stuart Middleton will kick off this 1 hour race, reigning British GT4 champion. So it comes with a good pedigree, and alongside him he's got a McLaren, Finlay Hutchinson and Ricardo van der Ende. We've been used to seeing Ricardo, Dutch ace, in an Ecris Motorsport BMW over recent years, but he's got a change of wheels this year. There you can see the white and blue McLaren in 4th place on the grid. That's on the pit wall side. Pole at Zolder is on the side away from the pit wall, the grandstand side, because that's the inside line going into the first corner, the fast left-hand sweep. And you can see Ricardo van der Ende's gloves as he gets himself those last little minute ticks in the pit, in the garage as you wait for the start, just making sure your gloves are on exactly how you like them. It's not so much for adjustment, it's a nervous tick, if you will. Not that Ricardo needs to be nervous after good 2 decades of top line racing. Tucked in behind 5th on the grid is the best placed of the KTMs. That's Reinhard Koffler sharing with Laura Kreihammer. And now the cars will go off onto their very orchestrated formation lap. The drivers have to be in close formation with those behind them. Not so much at the start of the lap, but by the time they go through the 3rd of the 4 chicanes, they need to be side by side, nose to tail. Best place at the BMWs. BMW came on very strong last year with the BMW M4 model. Is in 6th place on the grid. Gabriele Piana for the RN Vision STS crew. That seem to be, we've got a couple of one car that hasn't seemed to have gone away. It looks like an Audi down towards the back. Could be one for the Racing One crews. Red with the grey sides on it. How unfortunate to start your season. Well, let's hope they can get it started. Yes, they have. Well, that'll have to start from the rear of the grid. Only one of the Aston Martins from Academy Motorsport in behind it. And I would suggest that is how it is. So let's take a quick look at the starting grid. So a little bit of a hiccup there, but Nikolai Moller-Madsen will be starting from pole position in his Audi, and then alongside him Pierre-Alexandre Jean, then Stuart Middleton in his Ginetta, and Ricardo van der Ende in his McLaren. Gabriele Piana will start 6th in his BMW. Reinhard Koffler, the best placed of the KTMs. Then David Loger in another Ginetta, and Nico Metzel in another BMW. Julian Darras and Pascal Bachmann, and then Pavel Lefterov and Portuguese racer Cristóvão starting 10th on the grid. This grid graphic will run and run and run. We've got more than 40 cars coming out to play for the opening round of the 2018 Euro GT4 Championship, and some good names. Hendrik Still down in 16th place, he's always been quick. Cedric Freiberghaus in 18th, Dominic Schrammel. These are all names that could work their way forward. And of course, the qualifying session was a little bit interrupted by full course yellows and a handful of incidents, so a few people further down than they ought to be. But if you like a real rumble, look out, and more importantly, listen out for the 2 V8 Racing Chevrolet Camaros. You can see them in a metallic mid-blue. Jelly Beelan back on board, 2015 champion. He's in one, along with Wolf Nathan, fellow Dutchman. Jelly will start the car, and Duncan Houseman sharing his with Luke Brahms. So the formation lap here around Zolder. Wonderful, wonderful spring day. In fact, it feels almost like a summer's day. And still the field keeps coming. Van Arum and Van Dierendonk also racing in some of the other support races to get track experience. But eventually at the end of qualifying, we had all 44 cars setting a time, so 44 cars should be coming around. Luckily, we haven't lost that Racing One Audi that failed to get away at the first several attempts from the grid. But coming up to the final chicane, the Jackie X-Box, we have this massive field of cars with an Audi at the front from two Ginettas, a McLaren. 5th place on the grid occupied by KTM, and 6th place a BMW. Which will come out ahead if all is equal? It should be Nikolai Moller-Madsen. He appears to be the form driver here at Zolder so far this weekend. He's on pole by 0.4 of a second. He's on the right-hand side of the screen in the Audi. You can see Pierre-Alexandre Jean on the left-hand side with the McLaren tucked in behind, but already the hammer is down. And it's in a good start from Stuart Middleton, tucked in behind in the Ginetta. But in fact, the best start appears to be coming from 4th place on the grid from the McLaren of Ricardo van der Ende, and Jean has been jumped, but around the outside into 2nd place. A bit of a tap there on the race leader, and he's clipped Middleton. Came the 6th place starting BMW with Gabriele Piano. He lost a little bit of the ground that he'd gained, and it all went to an advantage to the race leader, to the pole starter, to Nikolai Moller-Madsen. But unlike their GT3 counterparts, all of them have managed to go past the gravel at the first corner. In fact, all but one, because one of the KTMs has peeled into the pits. But little bit of contact, but certainly for Gabriele Piano, many places gained. Dust being kicked up as the cars go wide through the Lucid Bianchi box. That's turn 4, but up to the Thierry Boutsen chicane for the first time. Some cars side by side. The BMW from MDM Motorsport being pushed a little bit wide there. That lost a bit of ground. But very tight indeed at the top, and even tighter midfield. The Street Racing Aston Martin. Street Art Racing Aston Martin lost a bit of ground, but Moller-Madsen being pushed very hard indeed by Middleton, and the very fast starting Gabriele Piano up from 6th to 3rd behind. Through the Gilles Villeneuve chicane, people behaving. The turquoise Ottosan Motorsport BMW from Turkey losing a little bit of ground, being a bit cautious. Down towards the tail of the pack. One of the easiest cars to pick out is the number 6 Audi. That's Jean-Louis Jasper starting the Phoenix Racing Audi in the bright day-glow yellow, but he seems to be down in about 10th position or so. Street Art Racing with the multiple colours tucked in behind. There is Jean-Louis Jasper. Should be able to pick that out in the night as well. 1st to 2nd, looks like it's under a second. They cross 0.7 seconds between Nikolai Moller-Madsen. In fact, it's Will Tregurtha who's listed as having started the number 55 Ginetta. I was expecting that to be Stuart Middleton. Maybe they've had a little swap. Gabriele Piano in the BMW in 3rd place. Again, the dust being kicked up on the exit of turn 1. One of the Celleslar Mercedes there, the silver car with the green stripes. Looks like he's going to hand back a position. No, number 38, 3Y Technology car, Jamie Vandenbelt. Used to be racing. Got a damaged BMW coming into the pits. I think that's the sister car. It could be number 37, which should have been Stefan Lemaray. Unfortunately, his BMW from 3Y Technology. It looks like it's had a bit of rear end damage. Up front, though, it's very much nose to tail. Oh dear, Jean-Louis Jasper removes the cone on the exit of the chicane. He was being pushed very hard by the Celleslar Mercedes in behind and just overcooked his entry into the first of the 4 chicanes. Still literally nose to tail at the front of the field, but the driver really rather keen to get a move on is Ricardo van der Ende, running 4th in his McLaren for Equipe Verschure. Let's have a little look at riding on board through the chicane. Oh, that's what happens when I think you possibly, but given a clout up the back, put a little bit sideways, you've got the brakes on, you're trying to steer it on a nice clear line, and to get a big twitch like that suggests that was someone else helping you on your way. But look how it is flashback. It is, in fact, Stuart Middleton in 2nd place. It was an electrical glitch there. Now we had a change of place. 22 has moved up ahead. That's Reinhard Koffler in the KTM, moved ahead of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. They both kick up the dust. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen leading in his Audi, Stuart Middleton in the best placed of the Ginettas in 2nd place, Gabriele Piano in the best BMW in 3rd, and it's literally 0.2 of a second between each of the cars in behind. Nose to tail stuff as they come down the start-finish straight. And certainly the Aston Martin driver from Street Art Racing really fancies gaining a position to move up the charts. pushing very, very hard indeed. There's number 22, he made the move. That's Reinhard Koffler, Austrian racer, head of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. First to second though, Stuart Middleton is very serious about all of this. And the fastest driver on the track in the first part of the lap is the driver in fourth place in the McLaren. Not the McLaren we were just looking at there, that was the one that's being shared by Lisette Brahms. And the driver at the wheel at the moment, Belgian racer Sven van Leer, blue car, number 11 from Mickey Vescher. The better placed car is the number 10 car that's running in fourth place. Again, setting the fastest pace, but he's got to move on up past Gabriele Piana's BMW. Just look how close it is. These cars are just outside the top 10. The Aston Martin, Julian Darras pushing Jean-Louis Jasper very hard indeed. Drivers all debating how much curb to use, how much life to take out of their tyres. Pit window opens in 20 minutes. It opens after 25 minutes of racing. Closes after 35, i.e. when there are only 25 minutes left. Left and right, you see the pack swerving from side to side. I actually fancy, well, the fastest lap of the race has just been set by the driver in fourth. What I was going to say is the first four are bunching up. You can see Stuart Middleton in the second place. Ginetta has got Gabriele Piana's BMW. How far behind? 0.3 of a second. How far behind that is the McLaren in fourth? It's also 0.3 of a second behind, so very even, but first place to second place is more than that. It's 0.8 of a second. Then you can see now no gap at all. Ricardo van der Ende, fastest last time around. Is this going to come to tears? Oh, diving up the inside as they go to turn 4. Couldn't quite get ahead of Gabriele Piana's BMW as they went into the Lucien Bianchi bocht. But it's not for want of trying. But fastest lap of the race set last time around by Ricardo van der Ende, the Dutch racer in the McLaren. And then Gabriele Piana, well, that's an interesting line. Not round the chicane, over the top of it, but he's held on to third place. If anything, he's gained an advantage, but I would suggest the officials might have a little look. That is cutting the chicane. The cone has already been knocked over by someone else, but he's taken advantage of it not being there. That was a big jump from the 111 BMW. That's one entered by our Envision STS. 26, that started the outside of the front row in the hands of, sorry, that's the second of the CMR cars. 36 is the one that started from the outside of the front row. The sister car, David Logier, down in 10th place, 36, dropped back to 6th. There are top 5 runners, Audi, Ginetta, BMW, McLaren and KTM. Great variety. So, leading the race, we have Nikolai Moller-Madsen. He was clear by 0.8 of a second last time around. Looks to have stayed pretty much the same over Stuart Middleton, just waiting for the match. Oh, in fact, he's gained 0.4 of a second, but don't forget, Middleton at the start of the lap in the Ginetta was being pushed very hard by Gabriele Piana's BMW, which in turn had Ricardo van der Ende right up its tail. Car in 10th place is the yellow, red and white Ginetta just flashing through our screen. That's number 10 for David Logier. And just look how tight it is behind. Wave flags in the background, a couple of McLarens top of the shot. Up at the front of, we're looking about 15th place, car number 38. Yeah, he's just around there or thereabouts. It is so tight. In fact, that's outside the top 20 now. Cars coming through so thick and fast. This is a, well, let's say everyone in the race is having a race, has got someone to play with. So what a great way to launch the 2018 campaign. And certainly plenty of overtaking. Is that going to be another place, Jane? Has he braked too late? Oh, Philippe. So that's David Logier. Gains a position. He's moved ahead. He was challenging 112, which is one of the BMWs, and also 13, which is the Pro-Am Schweder Motorsport car, Marc Basset. Basset has lost out with silver and orange Porsche Cayman, losing a little bit of ground, so he falls down to 10th. In fact, David Logier goes into 9th. So CMR Ginetta's looking very handy indeed. They're looking at the graphic, 1.7 seconds. There's a gap after 4 laps. It's actually down to rather less than that now. I think it's down to 1.2 seconds, but it's been a... It looks as though Nikolai Moller-Madsen, Phoenix Audi, has got things under control, but the driver who potentially is quickest is the one in that number 10 McLaren, right under the tail of the third place BMW. Ricardo van der Ende, how good was that lap? Well, in fact, all the top 5 cars covered by a lap time of less than a third of a second. In fact, fastest of them that time around was van der Ende in 4th place. It just goes to prove my point. If he can get past Piana in the BMW, then he will be able to go off after Stuart Middleton. Stuart doesn't have the answers in that white and pale blue Ginetta to the pace of Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the race leading Phoenix Racing Audi. How, when, if, but. Where's the move going to come? The move for third place from Ricardo van der Ende, not into the chicane, I would suggest, but what's happening is that suddenly Reinhard Koffler in the KTM, there he comes, the 22 car, is catching the two of them. KTM has just set the fastest first sector of anyone in the race. There it is, number 22, over the crest at Boot. Next car along the line is Pierre-Alexandre Jean, the second best of the Ginettas. His teammate David Logier just coming over in ninth. The bright Dayglow Audi losing a little bit of ground. In the hands it's listed as Jörg Wiebart, so obviously Jean-Louis Jasper is not starting the race. The number one BMW, that looked pretty handy early on in qualifying. Max Cobalt and Simon Knapp. It's Max at the wheel in 14th place overall, right on the tail of Julian Darras in the Street Art Racing Aston Martin, with that livery of many, many colours of stripe that's been augmented over the seasons. Battle for third place is the battle really for third, fourth and fifth positions. Stuart Middleton coming through in the Ginetta in second, a little bit of a gap of almost a whole second back to Piana. And now Ricardo van der Ende is suddenly losing a bit of ground in that battle for third place because he's being pushed super, super hard by Reinhard Koffler, the KTM crossbow driver, taking a look up the inside. Ricardo's been around the block too many times to leave quite enough space for someone to come up the inside, unless he really wants them to do so. He covered just the right amount of track to hold on to fourth place overall, but for Reinhard Koffler, he is on really quite a good charge at the moment in fifth place. Doesn't fancy staying there. Really, really wants to move up. Koffler, absolutely no fool behind a wheel. He was a European kart champion in his early days, back at the start of the 21st century, but really he's been in GT4 as a star for last year in particular, having done single-seaters before that. So very much a driver to watch for. Now Stuart Middleton, just almost a second's advantage in second place over Gabriele Piana, is starting to turn up the wick. He's just done his first sector. He took a third of a second off the race-leading Audi at that point. Julian Darras in that Street Art Racing Aston Martin really fancies moving up a place because he's right on the tail of Jörg Wiebart. Number 43, that's Hendrik still. He was 16th, he's down in 19th, so having sung his praises on the grid, he's lost ground rather than made it. Ricardo van der Ende, of course, it's not just about the pace of the opening driver, it's the pace of the driver pairing, the two drivers combined, and Ricardo van der Ende will be handing over to Finlay Hutchinson, who already has a season of racing in McLaren under his belt. Ricardo van der Ende was a BMW racer, so he's got a lot to learn, but it's a very, very strong driving pace. He's surely going to go up the inside this time. Door was left open by Gabriele Piana. Well, that was very gentlemanly. He obviously realised he lost a bit of ground. He's probably about to lose 2 places because Reinhard Koffler is trying to go through in the slipstream. Hasn't quite happened, but came up to the Lucien Bianchi bocht. Just looking to see if Koffler can get a better exit of there. Well, he stayed way off the curbs. We've seen a lot of drivers running out and kicking out the dirt, getting dirt on their tyres. You don't want to do that out of turn 4, but no, I think for Reinhard Koffler, he's just trying to soften up Gabriele Piana. Don't forget, Piana vaulted over the curb a while ago and just had a warning about car number 8 for exceeding track limits. Mark van der Aar showing with Koen Bogarts, one of the 2 MDM Motorsport BMWs. Right down at the end of the top 20, in 20th place overall. This is the battle for 4th place, though. It's Gabriele Piana hanging on, being pushed very hard indeed. And here is a replay of a McLaren diving up the inside of one of the Phoenix Racing Audis. That's going past number 3, which is Cedric Freiberghaus. So that was a good place gained by one of the Team GT entries. Paul sharing one with Nico Rindisbacher, the other McLaren from the team, Felix von der Laden, at the wheel of that. So Middleton in the Ginetta, white and pale blue, seems to have dropped that behind, but he's got a different chaser. It's not Piana's BMW anymore. Since that great move down into turn 2 at the start of the lap, it is Ricardo van der Ende in third. Ricardo van der Ende giving chase. and then throw a blanket over those 5-6 cars, and you can get about a second of time. Number 6 seems to just be losing a bit of ground with each lap in this race, and that was a place gained by the number 15. Silver and orange Schrader Motorsport came and Dominic Schrammel gaining the position, and unfortunately for Jörg Wiebahn, he's the one losing it. Good to ride on board, going through the first 2 corners there. 3 corners now. Now we go through the Lucien Bianchi box, attempting to run a little bit wide. Just here, a little click over the curves there. One of the drivers ahead of the car we're riding on board, kicking up the dirt. See how the drivers have to have just phenomenal attention. Just one little slip wide, and you really can cost yourself time, and in this company position as well. Drivers look calm, keeping the cars as straight as they possibly can, not the power of their GT3 counterparts. And that's part of the attraction. Learn to drive these GT4 races, and maybe you will be able to step up. And certainly a driver who has been stepping up. He joined this level of racing last year, Reinhard Koffler, right on the tail of Gabriele Piana's BMW in the fight for 4th place. Ricardo van der Ende, having got clear, is now 2.7 seconds clear. So he's gained about 2 seconds in 2 laps, making sure that 3rd place is his. He has to find 1.4 seconds, and he'll be on the tail of the Ginetta of Stuart Middleton. But in 4th place, it's Piana from Koffler. 6th place being occupied by Pierre-Alexandre Jean in another of the Ginettas. That's number 36. That's the sister car, which should be 3 places behind. Yes, it is, in the hands of David Logier. And as with Blancpain GT series, we have various different classes, and at the moment Pavel Lefterov in the 112 BMW from our Envision STS is in the lead of one of those. He's got the Silver Cup class pairings filling the top handful of positions. David Logier, oh dear, we've got the 60 Aston Martin Bonnaroo. That's the Matt Nicol-Jones and Fiona James Aston Martin, parked at the side of the circuit. Let's take a little look as to what happened there. It's coming into pit in. Spun coming into the pit lane. It's just been parked, so it's arrived just into the pit lane entry. I'm afraid that has trickled to a stop. That's a stop. That's Matt Nicol-Jones. So Fiona James won't get her race in this race. Of course, there's another chance again tomorrow. Pit is not open for pit stops at the moment. So clearly, whatever the problem was, that was the first safe place that Matt Nicol-Jones, with all the years of experience he has, could park the Aston Martin off the track, behind a barrier, out of the way. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen, 4.4 seconds clear in the lead from Stuart Middleton's Ginetta. Ricardo van der Ende, just 0.8 of a second behind Middleton, and then there's a gap of 3.5 seconds. The reason it's got out so much is Gabriele Piana, who's indicated he's actually ceded the position there. Sorry, that's a different BMW. That's one of the MDM BMWs. The trouble is, in the lowering sun, we're looking and we're waiting for the Silver Cup leader, which should be number 112, which is Pavel Lefterov. Should be coming over the right. No, that's Piana and being challenged. No, we've got a Ginetta. Should be the next one. Oh, there we have him. There's our Silver Cup leader, looking for 112. That was 110s. So it's the very dark-nosed one. It's not the one from our Envision STS. Well, it is. It's the same team, different liveries. So Silver Cup leader, 112. Being pushed very hard indeed by the AM leader, David Logier, number 36 Ginetta. Sorry, 26 Ginetta, 36 is the sister car with Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Very similar liveries, racing in different classes, with Logier leading the AM class, 9th overall. So the Ginetta G55, very, very popular at this level of competition. Ginetta, a British sports car marque that has several times over its history of some 50, actually approaching 60 years, dropped in and out of racing, but the last decade has been very, very strong indeed for them. In fact, Ginetta's just got a couple of cars competing in the World Endurance Championship Super Season, as they put their name, on cars at the front end of the grid. Audi's running a little bit wide there. Turn 16, the final corner, is a popular place, if popular is the right word, for drivers just stealing a little too much of the gravel trap, bringing dirt and muck, dust onto the circuit in their attempts to have fastest entrance onto the start-finish straight, but run out over the curbs, and they get quite the reverse of that. A pair of Team GT McLaren's not in the top 10, in fact not in the top 20. Paul Rees in 24th position, the sister car of Felix von Laden tucked in behind, about 2 or 3 positions further back. So those 570Ss needing to find a little bit of pace, but new to the series with Team GT, and I'm sure they will pick up the pace as they go. But the competition at the front is absolutely red hot. Here is Felix von der Laden on the outside line. That well, there you go. How wide would you like to go out of turn 4? So lap after lap, we see dust being kicked up into the air, this time rather more than usual, as von der Laden just ran that little bit too wide. That would have compromised his run behind the paddock, the run to the Thierry Boutsen chicane. Multicoloured Aston Martin 007, as it's run for so many years, looking very, very good indeed. Another off-track runner. We talk about the Aston Martin and he falls off. I apologise for that. Right down towards the end of the lap, and the street art racing car had got up into 14th position. He just lost a position with that little tumble. Might lose a whole lot more, such is the closeness of racing down the field. How frustrating, getting towards the end of his stint, maybe another 10 minutes, maybe even about 14 minutes, but could come in very soon indeed. The first pit stops can happen in just over 4 minutes' time. Another driver going off, that's the Bullet Racing Andy Merrick car that had just gained the position by the Aston Martin going off, and Andy Merrick will be handing over to the man behind the team, Stephen Patrick. Just loses, well, not a position, but the ground that he gained by getting ahead of the car that just ran off ahead of him. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen leading the race in the Phoenix Racing number 5 Audi by 5 seconds. Stuart Middleton now down into 3rd place, change of position for 2nd last time around. So I was examining the screens, and McLaren with Ricardo van der Ende, don't forget he was the fastest of the top 4 through the early laps of the race. He's made a move and he's made it stick to go up into 2nd place for Keith Verschoor, the number 10 McLaren. He'll be handing that over at some point to Finlay Hutchison, but he can be very pleased of his stint. The car started from the outside of the 2nd row, ran 4th in the early stages of the race, got up to 3rd, now into 2nd place. There is the change of order, the McLaren ahead of the Ginetta. So Stuart Middleton, who in the early laps looked so he had some answers to Nikolai Moller-Madsen, does not at the moment, and the gap between 1st and 2nd is now the gap between Moller-Madsen and Ricardo van der Ende, and it's 6.2 seconds. Stuart Middleton trying to not lose too much time behind one of the 2 Autolando Sport 911 Porsches, and slightly compromised through turns 2 and 3, so that's more advantage gained by the driver of the Verschoor McLaren. That is Ricardo van der Ende, number 10. Car looking very well balanced indeed. Down to the Boutsen chicane, 6.5 seconds now. The deficit between 1st and 2nd between Nikolai Moller-Madsen, who started from pole position. Of course, we're about to have the pit window open, 2 and a bit minutes. And then whichever team chooses to bring its cars in, do so then. They can wait a further 10 minutes. There's 10 minutes of pit window to change over to the 2nd driver for this 1-hour race. The opening round of the 2018 GT4 European Series. And Zolder has almost never looked better, certainly when you start with 44 cars. And I do believe we have more than 40 still running. We saw one of the 2 Academy Motorsports Aston Martins parked just at pit entry, but we've had a few off-track runs. We've had people in the gravel track and beyond, but so far so good. So good quality of driving out on the circuit, and that's particularly pleasing at the opening stages of the season. Now, can Stuart Middleton fight back in this battle for 2nd place? I thought Ricardo van der Ende, once he'd got got in front, will pull ahead. How much did he open out his advantage? By 4/1000ths of a second last time around. So Middleton, whether there was a slip up that led him to not just fall back off the tail of the race-leading Audi, but more to the point, to put Ricardo van der Ende in a position to move into second place. Can't tell, but Middleton is fighting back. Lights ablaze on the HHC Motorsport Ginetta. Looking to see what he can do about that number 10 McLaren from Equipe Verschure. Car number 13 leading the way in the Pro-Am class at the moment, and that is one of the Porsche Caymans, Mark Basek. He'll be handing it over to Philip Bethke. When the pit stops come to me, I'd suggest he'll have a relatively late one. And a message on screen, car number 12, that's not the sister car, it's the Borusan Automotive Motorsport. The Turkish BMW had a spin at turn 6. Turn 6 is the first of the chicanes. There is our race leader, Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Hasn't put a wheel out of line. The early laps, it looks as though Stuart Middleton could live with his pace, could stay just a second or so behind in the HHC Motorsport Ginetta. But it's been a really clean and tidy run from Nikolai Moller-Madsen, the Phoenix Racing Audi number 5, and the first of the pit stoppers is one of his teammates. That's the George Bernsteiner Helmut Rödig car running in the AM class. The number 4 Audi has come in. There it is. Looks as though it's a Martini livery, but it isn't. Who wants to come in early? No one, so it seems. Our race leader sitting on an advantage of 6.2 seconds. He is continuing out there, Nikolai Moller-Madsen. There's one of the sister cars. 4 Audis entered by the Phoenix Racing crew. Moller-Madsen will hand over to Milan Donci, Dutch racer, the Dane to the Dutchman. Helmut Rödig and George Bernsteiner showing that number 4 car. And a few more drivers deciding now is the time. Their teams have told them, especially if they're running multiple cars, you come in, you stay out. 22 runners in the Blancpain Sprint Cup, twice as many in the GT4 Euro Series. So getting in and out of the pits without obstructing other cars, or even worse, your own teammates, is not the work of a moment. Car 39, haven't seen so much of that in the race. That's one of the 3-wide technology BMW M4s. Gwenaël Delomier will be handing it over to Sylvain Debs, and this morning they had to limp. Debs had to limp probably 3/4 of a lap with one of the rear tyres having come off its rim and waiting to fall off the car, but just got it back. Another car from Phoenix Racing, number 3, Cedric Freiberghaus. That was a car that stopped on the circuit in the hands of Gauzier Rodès. So some of the early fallers in practice and qualifying coming in for the early pit stop. Sven van Laar is in with one of the 2 Equipe Verschure McLarens. Number 5, our race leader, kicking up the dirt there, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, probably just trying to do some very, very, very quick laps before he comes in to hand over. But as you can see, it's busy in the pit lane. Teams have to keep their crews informed of what's going on. Quite a lot of steam coming out of the back of that number 3 Audi, so the Phoenix Racing crew having a look as Gauzier Rodès is strapped in. Taller figure of Cedric Freiberghaus, Swiss racer, doing the strapping in. He wasn't paying attention to the steam because that wasn't his job. That's for the mechanics to check out. But hopefully the number 3 can go back into the race. The BMW behind having to reverse. That's 1-1-2. That's Pavel Lefterov, who was leading the Pro-Am class, handing over to Miguel Cristoval, but so tight is it in the pits now. What is the Phoenix Racing crew suggesting that car does? Go back onto the circuit or get pushed into the garage? But that was the one that had the problem. It stopped coming out of the first chicane in qualifying. It's the taller figure is Sven van Laar with the patriotically livered helmet. He's a Belgian, so he's got yellow, red and black on the top. And the shorter figure of Lisette Brands getting on board that number 11 McLaren. Waiting to hop on board. She's waiting for her seat insert to be put into the right position. Gloves off, the driver of number 2. That was Ivan Pereira, centred by Lippert Motorsport, handing over to Marcus Pavarud, one of many multinational teams up and down the pit lane. But the AMG Mercedes certainly gaining in popularity. Looks good, sounds good. Good combination. But not at the sharp end of the field. Waiting to see if our race leader kicks up the dirt, goes on another lap. No, he's having too much of a good time here. Last time he kicked up the dirt, but Nikolai Moller-Madsen continues on his way, as it looks like quite a slow pit stop for the Equipe Verschure number 11 McLaren. And all it seems, well, a lot of these crews have got their fastest driver in first, but certainly I'd say for the second and third place crews, we've got very, very good drivers set to take over. No wonder Nikolai Moller-Madsen continues in the lead of the race, because his co-driver is less experienced at this level of racing. Milan Doncha is the driver who will be taking over the race-leading car, whereas Ricardo van der Ende will be handing over his McLaren to Finlay Hutchison, hopefully with the sister car, number 11, having left the pit area to go back into the race. And Stuart Middleton will hand over to Will Tregurtha, a driver he knows very well indeed. They were partners in winning the GT4 championship in the British GT series last year. So that's a very well balanced lineup. Whereas Milan Doncha, who's going to take over from Nikolai Moller-Madsen, he was racing in the Audi TT Cup last year, so different class of car, different sort of car. This is an Audi, but ain't the same. R8 LMS. And so he's having his first experience of GT4, but Nikolai Moller-Madsen, who knows these cars incredibly well, staying out, doing what he has to do to extend that lead. 6.5 seconds is his advantage over the chasers. Moller-Madsen's been racing in GT4. Well, he too came from the Audi TT Cup, was a winner in that, but that was 2015. Since then, he's been in GT4 Euro Series, and he's been right on the pace, almost never more so than he is here. Goes around one more time for a further lap. Number 5 Phoenix Racing Audi. See how crowded it is down in the pit lane. 16 Audi is entered by the Racing 1 crew. Don't forget, one of the Racing 1 cars seemed to struggle away for the start of the formation lap, so lost a lot of ground. Half a second gained on that lap alone by our race leader, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, over Ricardo van der Ende. Stuart Middleton in behind, he's losing a bit of time. Well, in fact, he was only losing a few hundredths last time around, but he's 1.5 seconds behind Ricardo van der Ende in that battle for second place. And here's the AM leader, David Logier, been running very well indeed. He's moved up the order. In fact, he's gone up to 5th, as a lot of the cars in front of him have made their pit stops. But CMR, with its 2 Ginettas, this one in the AM class, looking very strong indeed. And they also compete in the French Championship as well, so getting lots of track time for their cars this year. Pit window still open for another 4 minutes. One of the Chevrolet Camaros coming into the pit lane, just ahead of it, the bright yellow, sorry, just behind it, the bright day-glow yellow number 6 Audi. Still waiting for our race leader to decide when he's coming in. I reckon he's got another good lap in him. Number 6, there's the pit board, comes to a stop. That was from outside the top 10. There, to my eye, great looking cars, those great big rumbling Chevrolet Camaros. Luke Brahms, Duncan Houseman. It was, I believe, Luke Brahms taking over, with Duncan having done the first stint in the race. Now we've got some more pit visitors. I think, is that Reinhard Koffler coming in the pits? No, it might be one of the sister KTMs. Now we've got Ricardo van der Ende in the pit. Stuart Middleton continues on his way. Around the outside he goes. So we'll see if the Equipe Short number 10 McLaren is ahead when Middleton has stopped the 55 Ginetta and handed it over to Will Tregurtha. So Ricardo van der Ende, who was 4th, got up to 3rd, got up to 2nd, just starting to ease away in 2nd position, but he was importantly 6.5 seconds down on the race-leading Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Madsen, I would think, will be in next time around. 2.5 minutes until the pit window closes. Ricardo van der Ende finally gets down towards pit exit, and there is the waiting figure of Finlay Hutchison, the Scottish driver, who went very well indeed in McLaren's last year, whereas they're novelties for Ricardo van der Ende. Last year, finishing 5th in the championship, Hutchison was sharing with the Hungarian racer Shaban Moore. This year he's gone for an upgrade, and they've got Dutch racer Ricardo van der Ende, but Ricardo new to McLaren's at this level of competition. Car number 36, well, we're just going to try and pick up the leading car that pitted. That was running very well in the early stages of the race in the hands of Pierre-Alexandre Jean, but it was in about 6th position before the flurry of pit stops. And of course, Nikolai Moller-Madsen has eschewed coming into the pits thus far in the race. Number 10 car being pushed back. I think that could be number 5 coming into the pits. Yes, it is. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, race leader, knowing he really would have been cutting it just a shade too fine if he went round one more time. So in comes Stuart Middleton from 2nd on the track. He had been 3rd. We'll have to see if the McLaren is back into second place. There is the McLaren being slightly blocked by KTM. Can't overtake it as they leave the pits, but tenths of seconds can be gambled away. You're caught behind a driver who's ain't as quick as you leave the pit lane. Stuart Middleton, though, only just entering the pits. Just going past the control tower as Finley Hutchinson out onto the circuit. He'll want to get past that KTM. He can do so as soon as he wants now, but Nikolai Moller-Madsen out of the car. Milan Doncha, brother of Indy Doncha, into that number 5 Phoenix Racing Audi. Looking absolutely pristine. I guess if you start from pole, keep out of trouble, your car should be looking probably better than anybody else. There's less stuff being spat back at it, but already Hutchinson has got past, even before turn 4 for chicane. And you know, it's a caring, sharing race meeting when a driver who's running up to, having done the first stint, jumps into a commentary box, realises he's not going to be talking the same language as you, and he's going to look for other people. So it's good to see the drivers coming to add expert colour to the GT4 commentary. Oh, it looks incredibly slow, this pit stop, but there's a mandatory time you must be at a standstill, so you don't need as many mechanics. They've got their pit stop done so efficient in Phoenix Racing, they're just having to wait until they reach the minimum time for a pit stop. Oh dear, debris on the track at turns 11 and 12. That's not good news. Glass, they reckon, on track. Car number 10, oh dearie me. That's the McLaren, Finley Hutchinson, unsafe release from the pit stop. This is the car that's looking to try and go into second position. We can see the McLaren, there it is, Finley Hutchinson. Where is Nikolai Moller-Madsen? Just pulling out there, looking, of course, for the 55 Ginetta as well. Where is that? There it is, coming with Will Tregurtha. He was third before the pit stops behind this McLaren, but he's easily got him. He's 2 or 3 seconds ahead, and the number 10 McLaren there with Finley Hutchinson under investigation for unsafe release from the pit stop. So he's fallen back to third and could be falling back further. Certainly when you've got 44 cars coming into the pit lane. The pit lane is now closed. The pit window is closed. Just 50 seconds or so ago, under investigation. It was a little bit busy as he tried to get out from the pit lane, and maybe in the haste to get out might have compromised the position, but come what may, the HHC Motorsport Ginetta is in front. We saw it hunted down by the number 10, Keith Verschoor. McLaren in the first stage of the race. No such problems for the number 5 Audi, but how good is the pace of Milan Doncha going to be? He's taken over from Nikolai Moller-Madsen. He's got a bit of track space behind him, but what he hasn't got is track space ahead of him. The Street Art Racing Aston Martin, now in the hand of Pascal Bachmann, not as experienced in this car, making its way around the course, but at a point at which, look, he's very kindly pulled over to one side of the circuit, but there's not enough pace in the Phoenix Racing Audi to pass it before the next chicane, so he's getting a little bit bottled up. Not what he wants on his outlap. Milan Doncha, though, controls it, doesn't get too hairy through the final chicane, will want to try and get a drag pass, but he's going for it very early, not using the drag at all, over the start-finish line. Will he have the nose of the Audi in front of the Aston Martin? Yes, he will, down into turn 1. In the background, looking for the white and blue Ginetta. It's just behind. Well, it's got the McLaren right on its tail. Finley Hutchinson, it's almost like one car is the reverse of the other. White on blue and blue on white, but it's the Ginetta ahead of the McLaren. 22 and a bit minutes of this race remaining. We've already seen the Ginetta be passed by the McLaren in the first stage of the race. Will it happen all over again? Now, on the timing screens, you often get the walk of shame, and we've got 4 cars being pinged for drive-through penalties for various misdemeanors. It's the number 8 BMW, the number 16 Racing 1 Audi, the number 222 Audi. He said jumping to the end of the time sheets. That's Nicky Leutwiler all on his own. He can't blame it on the first driver. Oh, 43 off into the gravel. The safety car is on standby. 43 Porsche Cayman. Was started by Hendrick, still just handed over to Jan Kasperlik. That is what we call beached. That ain't moving anywhere without a tow. So the yellow flags out at that point. Safety car on standby, looking around the circuit. No yellow flags there as Tregurtha kicks up the dust. Tidy line behind him from the McLaren in the hands of Finley Hutchinson. Signalling, no FCY board, no full course yellow coming as yet. And yes, they're backing off now. The safety car out onto the circuit. And let's take a look at the replay. Coming backwards into and through turn 4 wasn't the winning tactic. In fact, it's not turn 4, it's further round the lap. But off into the dirt goes number 43. One of 2 Porsche Caymans entered by Allied Racing, and that had just been handed over by Hendrik Still, just down the tail end of the top 20 to Jan Kasperlik, but so it is turn 4. There he is at the side of the circuit. Many a driver has gone out over the curbing and beyond. You can see their tyre marks running over the curbs. And they stop because they've gone into the gravel. They start again when they rejoin. But the safety car on the track. Now that's going to eat into the lead of Milan Donci, but of course no one can overtake, so he'll have the same number of cars between his Phoenix Racing Audi and the HHC Motorsport Ginetta. There's over 20 minutes remaining, but the safety car at the front of the pack. And Finley Hutchison will have this opportunity to keep calm, hope he doesn't receive a message suggesting that number 10 has got a problem after its pit stop release was under investigation. But right now he knows he's right on the tail of the number 55 Ginetta. There is the safety car. And he's going to have to hope that when it's released, he's able to get a run on Will Tregurtha in that battle for second place. Importantly for Milan Donci, various cars between where he is and the Ginetta. Just waiting for, there is the Ginetta, about 6 cars between him and the race leader, and that's going to manifest itself unless they can get past very easily in a very nice lead for Milan Donci. And Donci has got to learn his craft in these cars as he has his first taste of the GT4 category, but with that buffer should be good. So how long will the safety car remain out on the circuit? The field back nose to tail as it was. I was going to say on the opening lap, for about the first 5 laps, it only stopped being nose to tail when drivers went side by side. So close is the competition in the burgeoning, ever burgeoning GT4 European Series. Great mix of cars. We've got the Audi at the front, the KTM's their stat. Real backbone of this championship, the Porsche Caymans, but the Audi's getting stronger and stronger. The BMW's looking very good with the BMW M4. The Ginetta G55, super popular. Porsche 911 seems quite long in the tooth now. It'd be lovely to have a new Porsche GT4 if they want to use the 911 body shape. That's fine by me. Car number 39, pit stop under investigation, possibly due to time limits. That's the 39 car shared by Gwenaël Delomier and fellow French racer Sylvain Debs. They've had their problems today with a tyre coming adrift early on. Now the pit stop window is closed, so this Racing 1 Audi, that's probably a drive-through penalty, I would suggest. Yeah, because what's it doing? Driving through. And unfortunately, because the safety car is out, he decided to stop, but given the signal, back into the race. So Milan Donci leading by 6.2 seconds over Will Tregurtha in the 55 Ginetta, but importantly for him, there are about 6 cars in the train between the race leader, who's in that number 5 Audi behind the Audi safety car, about 6, maybe possibly even 7 cars out of sequence between him, that's Milan Donci leading the race, and then the pairing of Will Tregurtha's Ginetta and Finley Hutchison's McLaren. But what we've seen is the number 43 Porsche Cayman with Jan Kasperlik at the wheel has been removed from that big gravel trap onto the exit of turn 4, and hopefully racing will be underway very soon indeed. Watch the lights on the roof of the Audi safety car. Only 4 cars, I was wrong. I think maybe a couple of others came in and made their pit stops. No, in fact, they would have done that before the safety car came out. And thumbs up all round. Have you got the glass off the track? That's possibly the questions at turns 11 and 12. And just confirmation of why the number 16 Racing 1 Audi had to have that drive-through penalty. It pitted outside the pit stop window. Pit stops can only be made between 25 and 35 minutes in this 1 hour race, and the clock is ticking down to just over a quarter of an hour. And car number 2 is under investigation for overtaking under the safety car, which we know is a no-no. Good to see the 60 Aston Martin is going again. Maybe so Fiona James will get a bit of the race in the Wallaroo sponsored Aston Martin for Academy Motorsport. We saw Matt Nicol-Jones park it at pit entry, but they obviously managed to get it going again, back to the pit garage and back in the race. But that will be stone last, but still important racing mileage. Still waved yellows, just under 16 minutes remaining, waiting for these cars to be released. One more lap at least. The safety car crosses the start-finish line, followed by our race leader, Milan Donce, who could come away with victory at his first attempt in GT4. As pointed out, he's got a handful of cars. Are they being waved past to get the race order right? But just got to look to see where the number 55, Ginetta, is in the train. Last time I saw it, it only had 4 cars between where it was running in the race order and the race leader. Maybe the others will be flagged out of the way to let him get up into the second position. He's holding on the timing sheets. So for a lot of these drivers, such a period running behind a safety car is still a bit of a novelty, almost inevitable when you start so many cars. The smallest of spills, I must say, I'm very impressed with the driving standards so far in the opening round of the 2018 GT4 European Series. It'll be very easy to make a trip up, particularly on a lap that's narrow, a track that's narrow, a track that has 4 safety cars. Sorry, it has 4 chicanes, and we do see drivers kicking up the dirt and bringing it onto the track, which makes it very easy to put the power down too soon on the dirt and go for a spin out of those chicanes. But so far, so good. Yeah, still 4 cars between the Ginetta that just gone over the rise. That's in second place. Will Tregurtha, he's got Finley Hutchinson right on his tail in that number 10 McLaren. Gap was 6.2 seconds last time around. It's 5.1 seconds now. So what that proves is the field is starting to bunch up. The gaps between the cars becoming less and less. All of these drivers keeping an eye, if they can see the lights on the roof of the safety car, or if they can see the light bar, those lights are still flashing, so it's telling them that he's continuing. Well, he could turn them off before the end of the lap and dive into the pit lane. They're getting towards the end of the lap there, about turn 12, with the Boldenberger Haare Spechtboch. It's easy for me to say. So, of the 44 starters, only 1 declared retirement, and that's Jelle Bielen, one of the 2 V8 Racing Chevrolet Camaros. There, going around that turn 12, were the cars in second and third positions. The white and pale blue Ginetta at the back of the shot, and the white and pale blue McLaren tucked in behind. But the car that's leading that grouping around looks like we're going for at least 1 more lap behind the safety car. They're still sweeping the debris off the outside of the circuit. That's what you can see the safety car driver checking as he went around each of the last 2 laps. Still better to have another lap behind the safety car than have debris on the circuit that could lead to a cut tyre, and who knows what else. Also just want to point out that not so far behind Finley Hutchinson, I think separated by about 2 cars, is the number 22 KTM. That's from the True Racing box, and that was Reinhard Koffler starting. Now Laura Kreihammer's at the wheel. Look out for that little car in the grouping, just gone through our shot in fact. So drivers doing what they have done over the decades, went behind a safety car, weave from side to side to keep some heat in your tyres, because on the restart you're going to need all the heat you can get if you want to put your foot down. Car number 5, our race leader, Milan Donce, hadn't had to do too many laps in the lead of the race at racing speed. 2 cars that are chasing him are just in that little grouping behind, separated by 4 cars. The Will Tregurtha 55 Ginetta, Finley Hutchinson, the number 10 McLaren. Safety car in at the end of this lap. Don't look at your watch, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, look out of the window from the grandstand, from your positions on the wonderful viewing platform above the pits. Because we're waiting for the release. Drivers at the front end of the group will have seen that. Those behind will notice if the cars ahead suddenly start going faster. They've got to do exactly the same. The field can really string out unless everybody's right on their toes when the safety car comes in. Obviously the driver following around behind it has the grandstand seat. They know exactly what is coming from the safety car ahead, and it's coming in at the end of this lap. The lights are still flashing, but when it gets to it, now they're not. They've been turned off. There is the key. There is the clue for all the drivers in behind. So the first car that Will Tregurtha is going to have to try and depose, he can't do it until he's crossed the start-finish line, is the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. It's the silver car with the many, many coloured stripes on its roof that's running 5th in that pack of cars. But it's the car at the front with the red wing mirrors. It's just over 11 minutes remaining. It is our race leader. Was led away from pole position in the hands of Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Milan Doncha will floor the throttle when he comes through this corner. Can't be overtaken by the car behind. Well, that's a lap down anyhow. The number 24 car, Gottfried Pilz at the wheel. But he's got a very good start indeed. Looks like he's got an advantage of about 4 seconds. Just waiting to see over Tresoli. 3.5 seconds over, Will Tregurtha. Finley Hutchinson another half second behind, but they have to do some overtaking very quickly indeed. Oh, you can see that Milan Doncha is pushing very hard down into turn 2. Very twitchy indeed. Great driving from the Street Art Racing Aston Martin and great flag work from the marshals. Saw the blue wave flags. The cars that were behind him, he let them pass. He's not racing them. They're racing against each other, fighting for second position. And in fact, Street Art Racing Aston Martin lets the 76 Auto Landy Porsche through as well. So very gentlemanly. It's overly gentlemanly, but certainly we can't complain because we want that battle of second and third to see how close to the front it can get. Can it catch onto the tail of Milan Doncha, or will the GT4 Tyro driver making his debut at this level of racing? Milan Doncha, will he be able to do enough over the remaining 10 minutes? He's got a buffer of 3 cars, including one of the sister cars, the sister Audis from Phoenix Racing. It's the number 3 car. Cedric Freiberghaus started it. It's now in the hands of Gozir Rades, the Polish racer. And again, easy to pick out number 6 Audi, not having a dream run in terms of results, down in 11th place at the moment. Jean-Louis Jasper's taken that over. Jörg Wiebahn starting the race. But it is a go-to car for commentators because it's easy to spot in that livery. Now look to the Ginetta, number 55, on the left of your screen, being pushed very, very hard. Will Tregurtha being pushed super hard by Finley Hutchinson. But is their battle just going to allow Milan Doncha to pull clear? They're so interested in each other. This could be his escape. Got past Cedric Freiberghaus, the number 3 Audi. In fact, sorry, Gozir Rades. Cedric started the race. And 22, that was a car trying to keep up, and in turn is now being challenged. That's Laura Kreihammer with the 36 Ginetta, fighting it for 4th place overall. That is now in the hands of Tribodini. And the second of the Ginettas isn't that far behind. No, it is actually about 5 seconds further back in the hands of Eric Mouet. So the cars from CMR in 5th and 6th overall, but look how tight it is. There's a McLaren in the way. That's getting out of the way. That's not the one in the battle. It's the Ginetta from the McLaren. In fact, McLaren's towed past the other McLaren, gone past the Ginetta, so that's a change for 2nd place. So that was a confusion there for Will Tregurtha. Almost was like a missed gear, but maybe it was just simply Finley Hutchinson being really, really opportunistic. And as that Team GT McLaren was doing what it had to do, he's not only grasped it, but he's put it between himself. There we are, into the Villeneuve chicane and Will Tregurtha, so it's gone from bad to worse for Tregurtha. He was 2nd a blink of an eye ago. He's back down to 3rd, and he's got a car between himself, a car that's not wanting to get out of the way, and the McLaren has just gone past. The 88 car will be in the hands of Bernard Laber now. So don't expect Ginetta to be finishing 2nd. It was 2nd when we had the effective restart when the safety car withdrew, but Finley Hutchinson has absolutely caned it as soon as we went back to racing, and he's made the most of an opportunity that came his way when they came up to lap the Team GT number 88 McLaren, and he pounced the second there was a scintilla of opportunity. Now in a straight line, the much slipperier body shape of the McLaren makes it very hard indeed for Tregurtha to go past the Ginetta G55, but he's braver on the brakes. It comes from experience as well as the Ginetta's ability under brakes. Down into turn 1, he's made the move. Gap between Milan Doncha leading the race and Finley Hutchinson, 4.7 seconds. Let's remember that and see if Hutchinson can close in, because certainly he's got the GT4 experience. He raced a McLaren 570S last year as well. A little bit of traffic between them, but I expect that gap to come down. Now, what we like to do, we look for our class runners, and the leader in the AM class is 26. You can just see the CMR Ginetta, that's Eric Mouet, and Pro-Am is Philippe Betker, the Pro-Am leader in 9th overall. Philipp Bethke, one of two Schweden Motorsport Porsche Caymans. So they will be visiting the podium if they stay in those positions as class winners. But the driver who's heading for the top step of the first podium appears to be Milan Donci. Oh, we've lost the Turkish BMW. We've not lost it, we've found it, more to the point, but it's a cloud of its own. Smoke and dust. Looks like it's run through a gravel trap. KTM's having a little crack at a gravel trap as well. Has that been involved? Appears to be limping in. Who knows? We didn't see the lead up to that incident. Maybe it's picked up a puncture. Oh dear, that was the car that was running in fourth place. So Laura Kreihammer has suddenly dropped out from fourth. Really strong run from her teammate Reinhard Koffler. Oh, how sad. So that was looking good for a top six at least. So suddenly step up Stefan Tribordini. And looking at the pot of replays, oh, he certainly suggests the BMW was given a helping hand from number 33. That was Stephen Patrick's Mercedes. Didn't see the lead up, but we saw the coming together and into and through the gravel trap. And didn't see how that Audi got caught up. I'm not sure it was in the same section of track, but Laura Kreihammer pulled to the side of the circuit, waved yellow flags, quite rightly accordingly. The unusual scissor motion top open so Laura can climb out, but for the Austrian racer, big disappointment. Gap between first and second, it's staying at about 4.2 seconds. In fact, it went out last time. Better lap from Milan Donci, leading the race in the number 5 Phoenix Racing Audi. Doesn't have too long to go, 5 minutes to keep his cool at the front of the pack. Could well be that Finlay Hutchinson had a little bit more traffic to contend with. There is the McLaren first part of this lap. Oh, he's taken half a second out of the race lead. I think it was traffic. The speed is with the Scot in the number 10 McLaren. And Will Tregurtha dropped 2 and a bit seconds behind, but in fact last time lapping, well, half a second down. Yeah, he hasn't got the pace at this stage of the race. Maybe the McLaren slightly lighter on its tyres at this point. So Ricardo van der Ende did a good job in the first part of the race, starting fourth, moved up to second. The car back up to second at this point in the race, but the clock is not going to be its friend. And just had a change for the AM lead. So we've got the 222 car going through. That's the Porsche of Nicky Leutwiler. Oh dear, another faller at this late stage in the race. How cruel not to get a finish. And parked at the side of the circuit. It's, oh good grief, it's like the first lap of the race. Cars 2 abreast. They get down towards the end of the lap. That's going through turn 12. A couple of chicanes to be completed, but you can see the Cayman at the front of that group. That has taken the lead from the white, yellow and red Ginetta behind it, and it looks as though Eric Mouet's losing more places from other cars coming through. Not all in the class. Mouet was leading the AM class at the start of the lap in 7th place overall. He's going to be down to about 10th by the end of the lap as people are trying to line up. A bit of contact with BMWs and trying to go past, then almost contact the other side of the circuit with one of the Celisla Racing Mercedes. So it's all got a little bit hot and more places lost. So I don't know if Mouet's got a problem or he's just been suddenly spooked by the world and his dog trying to go past. Gap between first and second came down by 1 second, almost to the thousandths. 3.2 seconds is the gap between Milan Donci and the number 5 Phoenix Racing Audi. Let's have a look at the replay. Look for the yellow, red and white Ginetta. Was watching the silver Mercedes behind him, didn't see the BMW, went over to that side, whoa, I won't go there, pulled over to the other side. How he didn't actually touch the Mercedes, I do not know, but and then he lost momentum as he readjusted. So for Eric Mouet, suddenly the CMR Ginetta going backwards as more and more drivers thought, well, I've got momentum, you've just lifted off the throttle as you nearly hit or came into contact with 2 other cars, and they swept around the outside down into turn 1. One of the MDM Motorsport was BMWs gaining. There is our race leader, and there's a KTM between Phoenix Audi flashing its light. Milan Donci leading the way. 3.2 seconds was the gap at the start of the lap, and the McLaren is taking probably a second a lap out of it, but I think the clock is going to go against him, and he's got to get that KTM out of the way, out of his way. The KTM with Gottfried Pilz at the wheel, number 24, is a lap down, and hopefully the flagging will be very good indeed. What's the gap now? 2.7 seconds, so the loss of lead was stemmed, only half a second that lap. 2 minutes 10 seconds remaining till the checkered flag can be unfurled. So this lap and the next one for Milan Donci, new to GT4. If he can pull off victory in this race, he will be absolutely delighted, building on the very, very firm foundations put down by Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Helped him, no doubt, by the fact there was that longish safety car period, always changing of positions and chaining of paint down at the first corner. That was car number 13, one of the 2 Schweden Motorsport runners. That's Philipp Bethke that's leading the Pro-Am class, and could have found himself in the gravel. He's 7th overall, kept it on the island, but this late stage of the race, very, very tense moments indeed. And tucked in behind, he's got Nicky Leutviller in the 222 Porsche Caymans. So Porsche Caymans first in the Pro-Am class, first in the Am class, covered by about half a second. In fact, they were 1/10 of a second apart when they crossed the start-finish line, but just over a minute to go. And it's Milan Doncic stroking it home. He only lost half a second last time around, but the KTM is still between his race-leading Audi from Phoenix Racing and giving his all. Finlay Hutchinson, but I think the Scottish driver in the McLaren, running 3rd in that group, but 2nd overall, knows the clock is not his friend, clouting the curves, but not too hard. The number 5 Audi from Phoenix Racing have come here with 4 cars to come out and play, and certainly they look very strong indeed with their R8 LMSs. Ricardo van der Ende started the McLaren. It still can't overhaul the number 4 Audi. That's one of the Phoenix Racing cars, and it almost came back on just when one of the sister cars was racing past, but wasn't coming on, as we know that Milan Doncic is on the final lap. His advantage, 2.4 seconds. Really, it came down to just 0.2 of a second lost that time, so really good response from Milan Doncic. Doesn't want to take risks. He'll be looking in his rearview mirrors, but 2.4 seconds is quite a lot of track, and it's not helped particularly. In some ways, it's helped by having that KTM crossbow behind it, but in others, it obscures his view of exactly how close Finlay Hutchinson is. But through and over, bouncing off the Thierry Boutsen chicane for the final time, up over the crest of Boot, and then down to the 2nd of the 4 chicanes, the one where the drivers really have been clouting the curbs all meeting, but he's very smooth through there, the young Dutch racer. And in the Doncic family, most of the winning has been done by his brother Indy, but Milan, the younger driver, looking to put his name on the charts. He was 4th in the Audi TT Cup last year, and certainly taken to this Audi very, very well indeed. Still, the KTM crossbow is protecting him from attack from behind as they go through the penultimate chicane, and lights still flashing just for the effect of it all. It looks though Phoenix Racing will be taking race victory through the last corner. Doesn't have to be flamboyant over the curves, doesn't have to kick up the dust. Still got the KTM crossbow riding shotgun for him. So the first victory of the 2018 GT4 European Series goes to Milan Doncic, and his teammate Nikolai Moller-Madsen started in pole position in their number 5 Phoenix Racing Audi. 2nd place to the Finlay Hutchinson, Ricardo van der Ende McLaren from Equipe Verschure, and 3rd place, as one of the Aston Martins runs very wide indeed, goes to the Ginetta from number 55 HHC Motorsport. So Wiltshire Goethe bringing it home, having been started by Stuart Middleton. 4th place to the number 36 crew, CMR Ginetta. And how close would you like it? That is the finish in the Pro-Am Honours. Super, super close. But Simon Knapp claimed 5th place overall, the number 1 BMW, and 6th place, the number 2 Mercedes. So plenty of variety at the top end of the field. The race not over for all of the racers, and 2 abreast through the final corner. And Nicky Leutviller, he's 2nd in the Am class, but he's lost quite a few positions there. He really lost out in the last lap scramble, about 4 places on the track, but you can see blink and you can get it wrong in this super, super close championship. GT4 Racing continues to impress, and most importantly, continues to expand. But this afternoon, it was all about the Phoenix Racing Audi. Some great chasing from the Equipe Verschure McLaren and the HHC Motorsport Ginetta. Unfortunately, the Street Art Racing Aston Martin just pulled over at the side of the circuit, did not make it home to the finish. That was running around the tail of the top 10, but that's tumbled down the order enormously on the final couple of laps and has been now parked up. Milan Doncic and Nikolai Moller-Madsen, that's a Dutch-Danish crew. Phoenix Racing from Germany, they have proved a very, very useful cosmopolitan crew who got the job done, but McLaren knows the pace is there in that 570S from Equipe Verschure, and it could just as easily go their way tomorrow. If track conditions and the weather can be as beautiful as they have been for this opening race, the 2018 series, we'll take that any day of the week. So for Nikolai Moller-Madsen, stepped up from the Audi TT Cup, he's made a very, very useful debut indeed. Can't wait to see how excited he is when he's greeted in Parc Fermé by his teammate Nikolai Moller-Madsen. But it's been quite a race. Safety car sorted a few things out, but there's nothing doubting the pace of Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Milan Donci. They've taken the opening win of 2018 in their Phoenix Racing Audi. The margin at the end, 2.8 seconds over Finley Hutchinson and the Dutch driver who started the race in the Keith Vissel McLaren, Ricardo van der Ende. HHC Motorsport, Will Tregurtha, the driver who started the race for them, Stuart Middleton. Third place for them, a podium. They had a snap at victory, didn't come to them today. And Ginetta's looking good. There's one in fourth place as well. Simon Knapp and Max Cobalt taking sixth place. And Pavarud and his teammate Ivan Pereira, sixth overall. Top in Pro-Am was Philip Bethke, sharing with Mark Basseng in eighth place overall. Schweder Motorsport, the top car in Am. Right at the end, it all changed over, and it was number 30 that came through. Nicholas van Dierendonk and Johan Vannerum in their Mercedes got it done on the final lap ahead of Eric Mouet, who just lost a little bit of ground after contact on the start-finish straight. But really, really good race. Almost all of the 44 starters got to the finish. In fact, 37 of them did so. 38, because you can see the much delayed Fiona James, Matt Nicol-Jones, Aston Martin got going again and at least got some testing laps under its belt. But it's been a cracking start to the 2018 series. It looks like summer here at Zolder. Don't worry, it's only early April, but if that's the way to start the season, we'll take that any day of the week. But we've got Audi winning from McLaren, winning from Ginetta, so a really, really good plaudits to the GT4 Championship. And Nikolai Moller-Madsen very, very happy indeed. Waiting for Milan Donci to climb out, and the Dutch racer, I think, will be rather pleased with life. Thank you very much indeed. So as always, a debrief, but that race was one that could be read fairly easily from the grandstands and the pit wall. It was about the safety car really coming out and protecting him, because behind he had traffic, and then about 6-7 cars behind he had the cars in second and third that on pace were pretty much his equal. But Milan Donci used that cushion very, very well indeed. And when the safety car withdrew, he had it under control. Hutchinson came through to take second place in his McLaren. But for the HHC Motorsport crew, it was hard. But let's go down to the winners, because Dakota has caught up with the driver who started, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, and the driver who finished, Milan Donci.
Happy faces, that's what I like to see, especially yours. How did that go?
Yeah, this was a really nice one. This is first race of the year. New car, new team in GT4, new teammate. And yeah, I think we put it really together today. So yeah, good job of Milan as well to finish it.
New teammate, what's it like driving with the fastest driver on track right now?
Quite good. It makes it quite easy for me, yeah. So no, it was a really good race. I really liked it, and I think we did a really good job, and we go full gas tomorrow.
Mega, congratulations.
Thank you.
A look of quiet satisfaction, and for Milan Donci that really is quite a baptism to step into GT4, moving up from a junior class and to deliver first time out. He's done what he really needed to do. So what a start to the 2018 season. Euro GT4 underway. Let's take a look at the highlights. And it was fast and furious at the start. 44 cars going down into turn one. A little bit of touching, but the pole sitter Nikolai Moller-Madsen didn't have to worry. He got his nose in front. The HHC Ginetta moved up into second place, but it was push and shove. And chicanes proved difficult for some. Some went round, some went over. Luckily, none went under, but that's the first of 4 chicanes around the lap. And you can see actually very, very good driving standards there, giving each other space. Turn one was a corner where the dust got kicked up quite a lot. The turquoise BMW from Turkey got a faceful there, but they kept it on the island. Some drivers there riding the chicane. Unfortunately, we can tell you've done that if you've got the onboard camera. Then, now this might explain the delayed pit stop for the number 11 McLaren, flaming out there in the hands of Sven van Leer before the pit stops, and then Ginetta's right in the mix, and you see the number 3 Audi being given a little bit push wide as the Team GT McLaren's getting in the thick of the action and off the side of the circuit there for the second of the Team GT cars. The Street Art Racing Aston Martin had its moments in the race. In fact, it ended up off the track at the very, very end, but it was right in the thick of the battle just outside the top 10. And there is a massive, massive moment, very well held indeed by Andy Merrick, just getting back on the track, out of the gravel trap, in time to take turn 2. Here's the pit stop. Nikolai Moller-Madsen came in from the lead and handed over to Milan Donci. And then we had the safety car because the 43 Porsche stuck in the gravel at turn 4. That was Jan Kasperlik waiting, who'd just taken over from Hendrik Still. So the field went around. Importantly, there was a buffer of about 6 cars between the race leader and the cars giving chase. Then the Turkish BMW given a shove off at turn 4, and then contact and near contact on the start-finish straight, and Eric Mouet lost a lot of momentum and positions because of it, but Milan Donci had it under control at the front. And there was the checkered flag, and the chasing McLaren of Finley Hutchinson eventually 2.8 seconds behind, but for Nicolai Moller-Madsen, delight on the pit wall. And already drivers up on the podium as we're looking at the junior classes. And these are the drivers running in the AM class. So they get their Satina watches. And now walking to leave the podium. And of course we've got the Pro-Am runners as well, and the Silver Cup runners. But first blood for these drivers, very important. They're looking for similar weather tomorrow and to do it all over again. And now we're looking for the Silver Cup runners to come up onto the podium.
Silver Championship in third position for HHC Motorsport.
And we're waiting for the Ginetta drivers to come up because Silver drivers filled the top
in second position.
7 positions. So Will Tregurtha and Stuart Middleton coming up. They'll be followed onto the podium by the McLaren duo, new duo this year. Finley Hutchinson, who knows McLarens very well, and Ricardo van der Ende, who's moved across from many moons of racing and winning in BMWs. But let's have our first winners of 2018. Nicolai Moller-Madsen and the taller figure of Milan Donci up onto the top step. Victory, of course, for them in their Phoenix Racing Audi. Now the national anthem.
Trophies presented by Max Brahms, the GT4 European Series
And to present the trophies, Max Brahms, organiser of the European GT4 Series. What a busy young man he is. He sort of put his racing to one side to do this, but with his father Luke and mother Lisette racing, it's still a very much a family affair. But there we have podium victory, Nicolai Moller-Madsen, and on the right-hand side of the top step of the podium we have Milan Donci. Second place, the McLaren pair Ricardo van der Ende and the Scottish driver Finley Hutchinson, and third place, also in similar overalls, Will Tregurtha on the left and Stuart Middleton on the right. Photographers snapping away. And drivers who only remember to bring one set of overalls to Zolder heading off, and others who've got 2 are quite happy to spray each other, but the marker has been laid down. Phoenix Racing, how many races will they pick off in their Audis this year? But they know full well the HHC Motorsport Ginetta is very close to them on pace, as is that Keep Fair Shaw.
So gents, thank you.
McLaren likewise, and so it's not just the crew who get the trophies, but the children as well. So is that a young van der Ende? There's Ricardo picking her up, popping her down. Finley Hutchinson about to jump down as well. But I'd say their pace, they were caught out a little bit by traffic, but I think they've got plenty to worry, the Phoenix Racing Audi crew, through the rest of the championship. But for a lot of the teams, it was the first race in this series. A lot of the driver lineups, it was the first time they raced together. And for a lot of the crews, it's the first time they'd raced particular makes of car. Great to have ever more numbers of cars and manufacturers coming into GT4.
GT4 Pro-Am Cup Championship.
And now we're waiting for the Pro-Am finishers to come up.
Phoenix Racing, Jörg Viban and John-Louis Jasper.
So third place in class is the number 6 crew. It's a bright yellow car of John-Louis Jasper and Jörg Viban. Second place, 77. Racing 1, Jaben Moore and Patrick Zamperini for Racing 1 in their Audi. And the top step, it's not to an Audi, it's to a Porsche. Number 13 crew, Philippe Bedke and Marc Bassin really did well to work their way to the front.
It's also no music trophies presented by Max Brahms, the GT4.
So Max Brahms coming up to present the trophies.
Nina Vivna, GT4 Central European Cup
So Philippe
manager.
Bedke looking very pleased with his afternoon's action, just puffing out his cheeks. He was the driver that finished the race. Patrick Zamperini finished the car in second place. But for Marc Bassin, who had that really strong stint in opening stint in the 13 Porsche, he can be very proud indeed.
And third position winners. Well done. Raise your trophies, gentlemen. Round of applause. Top three in Pro-Am Cup Championship.
So those are the Pro-Am top 3. Job very well done indeed. So we've had the podiums, and Philip Bethke gets a faceful for his troubles. But what a great start to the 2018 season. Not just because the weather was great, the cars looked brilliant. 44 cars went out to play. I believe 40 was still going at the finish. But in every single class, the racing was great, and that's a really good omen for the rest of the championship. So you can hear the hubbub down the pleasure at this early point of the series. Now we're looking to the AM Cup finishing crews.
Well done, Nicky
Leutwiler, well, he takes all the plaudits for third place because he started the race and finished it. He's one of 3 crews that only have 1 driver on board. Nicky racing for Porsche Zentrum Zürichsee. Eric Mouet and David Loger, second place in their CMR Ginetta. Eric Mouget was given a little bit of a busy time down the start-finish straight. We saw that on the highlights. But the driver that took victory with a really good charge late on is the number 30 crew. They've taken the honours. 30 crew, they were out in Celeslar Racing Team, Mercedes, Nicolas van Dierendonck and Johan van der Rum. Luckily, Johan's got the name on the back of his overall, so I know precisely which one he is. He follows Nicolas van Dierendonck back up. So Belgian winners on home ground. They'll be very pleased in the AM class. And they finished in 12th place overall, so well done them. And the top finisher in the Pro-Am class that we just saw before, Philip Bethke, he was 8th overall, so they show they're really, really mixing it up at the front end of the field. And for these drivers, what a pleasurable start to the season. They've got to do it all again tomorrow at the front end of the day, so the track conditions will be different. And certainly this morning the track was quite cool, even though it was a beautiful day. And it took a while to get up to temperature, but any tyre engineer down there will know that the tyres had plenty of heat put through them this afternoon. And Nicolas van Dierendonck not seeming to want to leave the podium, and nor does his co-driver up there, Mark Basseng. Sorry, Johan van der Rum, I mean. Basseng was on the previous podium. But again, 44 cars went out to play across 3 classes. We've got 3 podiums of very, very happy people. So 2018 is now underway for the GT4 European Series. We've had victory for Audi overall, but pushed very hard by McLaren and Ginetta. So that's a great omen for what lies ahead. If we have blue sky again tomorrow, everyone will be smiling. But clean racing, very few cars damaged. What a fantastic start. Do come back and watch the GT4 European Series tomorrow. It should be absolutely fantastic.
Op de 3e positie.